Hi, I'm Andrew Walsh of DaytonVistas.com. The University of Dayton is a major anchor for the city, and in this video, I'll trace the founding of the school back when the area was farmland, show the university's earliest surviving structures, some well known and others that are pretty under the radar, and finally, I'll offer a few notes from today, including a demolition of one historic campus building. So I write about Dayton's early architecture and how so few cohesive 19th century districts survived due to urban renewal, highway construction, and gradual neglect. But if we expand our scope from traditional neighborhoods to include institutional contexts, then we do get a couple more, and the University of Dayton is one of the most significant. So let's start with the creation of the school in the middle of the 19th century. At that time, the land that would become campus was farmland owned by a John Stewart. It consisted of 125 acres of fields, woods, vineyards, orchards, farm buildings, and a home. In 1848, the Stewarts' infant daughter, Mary Louisa, succumbed to cholera, and they decided to sell their farm and move back to Europe. They found an interested buyer in Reverend Leo Meyer, who had come to Cincinnati from France to establish an American presence for the Society of Mary. Instead, he was sent north to Dayton's Emmanuel Church to help those afflicted by the cholera epidemic. This is where he met Stewart, and in 1850, Meyer purchased the farm along with three Marianist brothers, including teacher Maximin Zeller. The deal included a Medal of St. Joseph and a promise of $12,000 at 6% interest, and Meyer also promised to retain and care for the grave of Stewart's daughter located there, which remains to this day. Stewart Street would also later be named for John, but the name was misspelled. So the school that would eventually become UD opened just months later on July 1st of 1850. Originally called the St. Mary's School for Boys, it began with just 14 students. The first decade was eventful as the school burned to the ground in 1855, but was rebuilt and grew to 100 students 5 years later. From the beginning, it was guided by a clear mission: devotion to Mary, Mother of Jesus, and an emphasis on education of the whole person, something most productively accomplished within a community. Around this time, the university's earliest buildings that remain today were constructed. We'll start with Zehler Hall, built in 1865 and named for the aforementioned Brother Zehler, who had become the school's president in 1860. This isn't one of the university's most well-known buildings, but it does hold the distinction of being the oldest that survives. The next oldest building is Liberty Hall, built the following year in 1866. The small structure was originally a faculty residence hall and today houses offices of the campus ministry. Before a renovation in the 90s, it had a coffee house in the basement called Monk's Inn. It's also reportedly haunted, dating back to another earlier use as a public infirmary. This ghost connection is enough to give it more popularity than the rest of UD combined, at least according to one source. Our next building is a major one, the most iconic symbol of the university, the Chapel of the Immaculate Conception. Built in 1869, its cupola was the inspiration for the school's logo. Author Kurt Dalton once described some of its features. A main altar and two side altars were of massive marble. The pulpit was ornamented with hand-carved figures of the four evangelists and the Virgin Mary. Music was provided by a Kenkin and Grimm pipe organ valued at $2,500. Since its construction, it's been the focal point of the institution, and, quote, in terms of mission, spirituality, and campus geography, the chapel marks the central axis around which the university has grown. Next up, we have another of the university's more prominent buildings, St. Mary's Hall. When it was built in 1870 at a cost of $80,000, the five-story structure was the largest anywhere in Dayton, big enough to be visible from anywhere downtown. Its design was inspired by convents in France, and in its early years it was a dormitory and classroom, while today it contains a variety of administrative offices. During the Great Flood of 1913, it housed displaced Daytonians, and the structure is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Next up, we have a really interesting building, the Reich Center, which you most likely would not guess is the fifth oldest on campus when looking at it today. But it looked totally different when it was built in 1874 as Convention Hall, also known as the Playhouse. It was described as a barn-like wooden building, which over the years has housed performances and sporting events, university commencement ceremonies, and a variety of academic departments. A new stage built in 1911 made the gym too small for intercollegiate athletics, and eventually it became known as the Women's Gym. Susan Fink Schiller, the first woman inducted into the UD Athletic Hall of Fame, recalled that in the 50s, most women's athletics were housed there. She played varsity field hockey, basketball, and softball, but in those days, women's sports didn't get too much attention or much funding, and the female athletes even pooled their money for gas when they had to travel to play another school. By the 70s, the building had become outdated, but demolishing and replacing it would have cost millions, so instead, the top floor was removed in 1977, and the interior was redesigned to become a visual arts center known as the Reich Center for Performing Arts. By 2012, it again changed roles, and today it houses offices for international students as well as global and intercultural programming. Our next oldest building is another of the university's most prominent, St. Joseph Hall. By the time it was built in 1884, the school had just been awarded the right to confer degrees by the state of Ohio, with the first one earned by a John Hiller. It was built by brother Joseph Senence and featured beams from the sawmill of John H. Patterson, who had just sold 28 acres of woodland to generate cash for his budding business, the National Cash Register Company. The plans called for 2 feet thick supporting walls, and the facade included decorative brickwork along the roof's edge and an elaborate roofline featuring dormer windows, a cross, and 16 chimneys to vent the building's fireplaces. Looking at the beautiful exterior today, you may be surprised to learn that the entire interior was destroyed by a major fire in 1987. It reopened 2 years later after a major fundraising campaign. Now, there's one more 19th century structure, which also typically doesn't get too much attention, the 1898 Powerhouse. This was built by Reverend Charles Eichner, who served as chaplain and the president of the institution. It originally supplied heat and electric light to campus and also had tunnels to the other buildings. Today, the Powerhouse houses campus print and copy services as well as dining services. Now, the first campus building of the 20th century is the 1903 Heritage Center, which also had a variety of former lives. Initially, it was used as the men's lavatory before indoor plumbing was common, and it became known as the Crystal Palace due to the glass used in its windows. Next, it was a carpentry shop, and then it was the UD Post Office from 1959 up to 2004. In 2007, it was transformed into the Heritage Center to showcase UD's Marianist heritage, and a decade later became the Heritage Coffee House. 1903 also happened to be the first season of UD basketball, still called St. Mary's Institute at the time, with the team being referred to as the Saints in the early years. The following year, 1904, saw the construction of another major staple on campus, Chaminade Hall. It was named for the founder of the Society of Mary, William Joseph Chaminade. Originally, it was used as a dorm for seniors, and it also featured a club room in the basement with pool tables and 2 bowling alleys. It was also the institution's first library, known as Zehler Library, and later served students as a dining hall and then the UD bookstore. The arcade seen here connected it to St. Mary's Hall, but that was removed in 2014. Chaminade Hall has not been occupied for several years, and in March 2025, the university announced it was moving forward with demolishing it. UD officials said, "This decision has been a long time coming. While there's no denying the long history of this building, from a facilities, financial, strategic, and even safety lens, this makes the most sense for the university." After Chaminade Hall, there was a pause in construction for some 2 decades, during which the school went through some important updates. It was renamed St. Mary's College from St. Mary's Institute in 1912. Then in 1920, it took on its current name of the University of Dayton. In 1923, the athletic teams first adopted the Dayton Flyers nickname as a nod to the city's aviation heritage. That same year, Harry Beaujean, who had played football at Notre Dame, became UD's head football coach, and in 1925, Beaujean Field opened as the home of the team. The football team has since moved to Welcome Stadium, but UD Soccer has kept up the Beaujean tradition. Now, moving back to the buildings, Alumni Hall had been built in 1924, and after that, we come to this structure, Albert Emmanuel Hall. Constructed of Indiana limestone in 1928, this building was the Albert Emmanuel Library until Resch Library opened in 1971. In 1943, a donation of a single book started a very special library collection, which grew over the years to become the largest in the world devoted to the Virgin Mary. It's a center for scholarship and includes over 100,000 books dating back to the 1400s, as well as artifacts that include religious medals, postage stamps, postcards, Christmas cards, holy cards, small statues, and even wine bottle labels, each of them in some way pertaining to Mary. Today, the Marian Library is located on the 7th floor of Resch, while Emmanuel Hall houses admissions and financial aid. Up until this period, the school also had offered preparatory education. The Marianist High School then moved from campus to the Notre Dame Academy building downtown at Franklin and Ludlow Streets, close to the Emmanuel Church, which we saw earlier. This building had been a school run by the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur. It became the Chaminade High School for boys, while the girls relocated and opened Julienne High School. The building seen here was demolished in 1959, and then in 1973, the two schools merged to become today's Chaminade Julienne High School. The 30s and 40s saw another major gap in construction of new university buildings. Coeducation was first introduced in 1935 to help boost enrollment during the Great Depression, and 2 years later, enrollment reached 1,000. The school received a huge influx of new students after World War II, 2,800 by 1946, and it continued to grow after that, with many new buildings being constructed from the late 40s through the 60s that make up the majority of what we find on campus today. Now, since we've already touched on athletics, let's look at the field house. Built in 1950, close to Beaujon Field, and home to Flyer basketball through the 60s, which corresponds to most of legendary coach Tom Blackburn's career, as well as the first years of Don Donaher. During its seasons in the Fieldhouse, the Flyers were one of the top programs in the nation, winning the NIT in 1962 and 68, earning 4 NCAA Sweet 16s, and reaching the NCAA title game in 1967. And it's worth noting that into the 1950s, the NIT was still considered by many to be the more prestigious tournament. UD Arena opened in 1969, and then in 1975, the Physical Activities Center was built and joined to the south side of the field house. In the late 80s, UD renovated the interior and added on to the west side. Following the death of longtime athletic director Tom Frericks, the university renamed the field house in his honor. And today, it's the 4th largest volleyball-only facility in the NCAA. So that's all I have for today. If you're interested, you can check out my website, DaytonVistas.com, where you can read more about UD and Dayton history, as well as pick up a copy of my book, Lost Dayton, Ohio. Finally, you can join my Dayton History newsletter to stay updated on all my writing, new videos, and also get news on the history presentations and walking tours that I do here in the Dayton area. You can sign up directly at DaytonVistas.com/newsletter, and I've also linked that in the description. So thanks, and see you next time.